The pottery wheel was spinning. Round and round and round. A young potter pressed his hands against a lump of clay. Slowly, the clay began to rise. For a moment, it looked perfect. Then, the walls tilted, the shape twisted, and suddenly, collapse. The pot fell apart in his hands. He stared at it. Another failure. Around him stood hundreds of imperfect pots. Cracked, crooked, unfinished. Hundreds of attempts, and only a few worth keeping. The potter wiped the clay from his hands. He had once dreamed of becoming a master. Now, he was beginning to wonder if he should quit. Most people think good habits are built through discipline. If you want to exercise, force yourself. If you want to read, force yourself. If you want to study, force yourself. But what if there is another way? What if you could make the habit attractive? Because we don't repeat behaviors simply because we know they're good. We repeat them because we expect them to make us feel good. And that expectation creates craving. Welcome to Gravitas Hub, where powerful books, timeless philosophy, and deep ideas are transformed into stories that help you think better, live wiser, and grow stronger. Now let's begin. His name was Soren, and pottery had once been the thing he loved most. He loved the feel of wet clay, the sound of the wheel, the moment when something shapeless slowly became beautiful. But lately, practice had become painful. Every morning, Soren entered the workshop thinking, I have to practice. He would sit at the wheel, make a mistake, start again, make another mistake, and eventually, he would look at the clock, waiting for the session to end. Then one morning, he simply didn't go inside. The next morning, he stayed away again. His mentor finally found him outside the workshop. You haven't been practicing. I know. Why? Soren looked at the ground. Because I don't want to anymore. His mentor didn't tell him to work harder. She asked, why did you want to become a potter? Soren became silent. He remembered his grandmother's old teacup. It was handmade. The handle was slightly uneven. There was a tiny mark on the side. But every morning, his grandmother used it. As a child, Soren had watched sunlight fall across that little cup. It wasn't perfect, but it meant something. And suddenly, he remembered. He hadn't started pottery because he wanted perfect pots. He wanted to create something that mattered. Every habit follows a simple loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. The cue tells your brain that something is coming. The craving makes you want it. The response is the behavior. And the reward teaches your brain. Do this again. Think about your phone. A notification appears. You haven't even opened it, but you already want to know what's there. Maybe it's a message. Maybe it's something interesting. The reward hasn't arrived, but the anticipation has. And that anticipation pulls you toward the behavior. This is why dopamine matters. It isn't simply about pleasure. It is also involved in motivation and anticipation. Your brain learns what to expect and begins wanting the behavior before you perform it. So if you want a good habit to last, don't only make it useful, make it attractive. The next morning, Soren returned, but he changed the experience. He opened the windows, let the sunlight enter, made his favorite tea, played quiet music, and placed his grandmother's cup beside the wheel. Then he sat down. He didn't tell himself, "I have to practice for 3 hours." He simply said, "Let's make one." The wheel began turning. His hands touched the clay, and slowly, practice began to feel different. The work hadn't become easier, but it had become something he wanted to do. James Clear calls this strategy temptation bundling. You pair something you need to do with something you want to do. Soren paired pottery with things he already loved. You can do the same. Listen to your favorite podcast while exercising. Play music you love while cleaning. Make your favorite drink before studying. Save a comfortable part of your evening for reading. You're creating a positive association. You're teaching your brain, "I enjoy beginning this." And when you begin looking forward to the habit, you need less force to start. Soren continued. One day, then another. Some pots were beautiful. Others collapsed. Some cracked in the kiln. But he stopped expecting every attempt to be perfect. He began enjoying the process. The wheel, the clay, the quiet mornings, the small improvements. And slowly, the workshop became a place he wanted to return to. Then one morning, he didn't. He was exhausted. He stayed home. It was only one missed day. But the next morning, he thought, maybe I'll start again tomorrow. Then he remembered. Never miss twice. One missed day was an accident. Two could become a pattern. So Soren returned. He wasn't motivated. He simply began. And that small decision protected the habit. Years passed. Hundreds of pots filled the workshop. Most were imperfect. But every failure had taught his hands something. Then one morning, Soren placed fresh clay on the wheel. His hands moved naturally. The clay rose. The walls became smooth. He slowed the wheel, made one final adjustment, and stopped. He looked at the pot. It was beautiful. His mentor entered the workshop. She looked at the masterpiece, then at the hundreds of imperfect pots surrounding it. Soren smiled. He finally understood. The masterpiece hadn't appeared instead of the failures. It had appeared because of them. Every imperfect pot had been part of the process. Years earlier, Soren thought he needed more discipline. Now he understood something deeper. He didn't need to force himself every morning. He needed a reason to want to return. And that is true for us too. You may want to read more, exercise, study, build something meaningful. But if every attempt feels like punishment, your brain will resist. So make the habit attractive. Create a ritual. Pair it with something you enjoy. Make the beginning inviting. And when you fail, don't turn one bad day into a new identity. Return. Because you don't become better through one perfect attempt. You become better through hundreds of imperfect ones. Soren thought he was creating a masterpiece. But in the end, he realized something even more important. The masterpiece wasn't the pot. It was the person he became while making it. Chapter 8 of Atomic Habits teaches us something powerful. We repeat habits because we crave what they promise. So instead of asking, "How can I force myself to do this?" ask, "How can I make myself want to do this?" Make it attractive. Make it enjoyable. Create positive associations. And when you inevitably slip, remember, never miss twice. Because transformation doesn't happen through one extraordinary moment. It happens through ordinary actions, repeated long enough to become extraordinary. But there is still one question left. If we can make our habits attractive, then why do some behaviors become almost irresistible simply because the people around us are doing them? Why do we begin speaking like our friends, thinking like our family, and sometimes adopting habits we never consciously chose? Why does belonging to a particular group make certain behaviors feel normal, while making other behaviors feel strange? In the next chapter, we will discover how the people around us shape our habits. We will explore why humans naturally imitate the habits of those around them, why we are drawn toward the behavior of people we admire, and how our family, friends, and social groups can quietly influence the person we become. Because sometimes, the habits we repeat aren't created by what we want, but by who we want to be like. If this story gave you a new perspective on the habits you are trying to build, like this video, subscribe to Gravitas Hub, and turn on the notifications bell so you never miss the next chapter. Join us as we transform powerful books into stories that inspire better thinking and better living. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and remember, the habits you repeat become easier when you learn to want them.